The definition of women's rights states that there are rights that promote a position of legal and social equality of women with men in employment, domestic relations, and education. The United States has problems, but the whole world is fighting gender equality. Lately, we have seen how great the issue is in Western Asia. Women's rights affect and have affected history in politics, in social life, in the economy, and in the environment. This chart represents different countries' stats on what year that country allowed women to vote, the female literacy rate, the gender wage gap, and the percentage of women in the labor force. Saudi Arabia, compared to Australia, only recently allowed women to vote, while Australia has allowed women to vote for over a century. The percentage of women in the labor force isn't as important as the gender wage gap. Just because the country has allowed women to work doesn't mean there is equality for them. In Ethiopia, there is a big percentage of women working, but they all get 35% less than any male working the same job. History of the fight for women's rights is well represented in China and described well in the article Role of Women in China. In China's past, Imperial China, women are subordinate to men and possessed very little power. One of the ways that men kept power over the women was through the practice of foot binding. It is a practice of tightly wrapping young girls ages 4 to 6 feet to stop growth of their feet. The process disabling them, they were unable to work due to the pain and therefore making the girls or women dependent on men. Foot binding was finally banned in 1912. Between 1911, the Qing dynasty, and 1949, the founding of the People's Republic of China, the role of women began to make great improvements, including men and women working together in the workplace. Now, in present day, there are an endless number of opportunities that women can pursue, such as becoming a female astronaut. In the United States, women did not get the right to vote until 1920, 50 years after African Americans were able to vote. In 1972, Title IX was passed, essentially giving women a more equal chance to attend college because there was an equal number of scholarships for men and women. Politics, of course, is a huge part of the issue of women's rights. The article, Saudi Monarch Grants Women's Right to Vote, shows how equality is still being sought after. King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia signed a decree allowing women to vote and run for elected office to begin in 2015, the next voting cycle. Women are hoping that this will start a real change for women to be able to have voices and for men to start seeing women as equals instead of second-class citizens. There is also the hope of that other Asian countries will follow Saudi Arabia's lead. Women throughout the world are holding more and higher political offices. Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in 1979 through 1990. Gloria Macapagal Arroyo is the daughter of the late Philippine president. She holds a master's degree in economics. She was elected senator in 1992 and re-elected in 1995. In January 2001, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo assumed the presidency of the Philippines. Despite that most of the world supports women in sports and social freedom, Western Asia still struggles with the issue. The article, Survey Majority of Saudis Favor Women's Right to Play Sports, explains some of the opinions. The ruling elite of Saudi Arabia, including King Abdullah, have influenced the majority, approximately 74% of Saudis, to support women in sports. Although they support women in sports, the government does not want to confront the more conservative who view women in sports as corrupt and satanic. Despite Saudi Arabia and Yemen, the only Middle East nations' refusal to put women's soccer on par with men's, Saudi Arabia did allow 2 women to compete at the London Olympics in 2012. Fodan Shahirkhani competed for Saudi Arabia in judo. Laws for equality for women all over the world are still changing. For example, ski jumping was just now been added as a women Olympic sport. The article Overcoming Challenges to Women's Entrepreneurship in the Asia Pacific discusses the impact of women in the labor force. At the Women in Economy Forum, Hillary Clinton noted that women represent 40% of the global labor force and more than 50% of the world's university students, and there are over 6 million formal female-owned businesses in East Asia. Research has shown that countries with greater economic equality between men and women are stronger and more competitive as a nation. Research has also shown that by empowering women in Asia-Pacific economies leads to decreasing poverty, healthier families, and stronger communities. The effect of the education of women, social and economic freedoms also impact the environment. The article World Overpopulation Awareness discusses the environment and overpopulation in Africa. In the section Ethiopia, Rethinking the Model Family, it explains how large families in rural areas were the norm and were needed to run farms, but now having multiple children is a financial burden. In the section Millions of Girls in Africa to Gain Access to Family Planning, it explains how young women from countries with the fastest growing population in the world, such as Ethiopia, Niger, Tanzania, and the Congo, will be receiving education and service for family planning. This will help keep children in schools longer and keep women contributing to the world economy. In the section Rwanda, more women access family planning services retort. It explains how there has been an increase in family planning in Eastern Africa, but not in Central and Western Africa, where family planning is not considered a human right and not available to everyone.